All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope you enjoy.
Welcome to episode 32 of the KissFAQ podcast. I am your host this week and back, Lonnie Weishauer, stlkiss on the KissFAQ message board. And today I am joined by Ken, 69th Blizzard, Jay, Music Guy, and Marcus Almighty. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Good, man. Doing good.
Well, as you can see, I'm back this week on the podcast. I went to Milwaukee last week and took in some Cardinal games, watched them beat the Brewers a couple times. But as you can also see, Julian is not with us today. But the admin is always watching, so guys, be on your good behavior, or he'll put your name in the suspension logule with Mike's chin hair, and you'll be banned. So just keep that in mind. Well, today we are discussing our own top 10 personal favorite Kiss songs. Now, for me, picking out top 10 Kiss songs is extremely difficult. And when I made out my list, I was satisfied with my top 10 that I picked out. But if I made a list a month from today, it might look quite different, just depending on what I've been listening to and how my mood is that day. Just, it fluctuates. And I think it's something that all of us as Kiss fans can relate to, because there's, so many albums worth of material to choose from. And, there's so many different musical styles of Kiss, from, the beginning to the 80s to, the Carnival of Souls type stuff to what they've done in recent years with Sonic Boom and Monster, that there's such a wide variety. So let's just jump into it, and I want to throw it out to Ken first to tell us about his list of top 10 songs. Now, it's going to be interesting to see which songs overlap for all of us, and which songs that are on someone's list that may be a head scratcher to others of us. So, Ken, let's start out with your list. Give us your top 10 and tell us why these songs are important to you. And tell us, were these songs that you instantly loved, or were they some of them songs that grew on you? And while you were making your list, were you surprised by some of these songs? Really, were you surprised that a certain song might be in your top 10 list? So let's hear it, Ken.
Yeah. So, like you said, the top 10 list, my list can change from day to day. It's kind of what your mood is and so on that's going on. And there's so many songs to choose. I had to whittle it down. I had 30 songs listed originally. And then it was tough putting it, narrowing it down to 10 songs. So this is what I got for, at least you could say, of last week, my 10 songs that were, kind of big deal for me. Some of them are always going to be on the list. So I'll go through the list. This is no particular order. So the first song, my top 10, is Black Diamond, and it's the live version that I prefer. And usually it's the one that was played around mid-'70s, where Paul Stanley has his little solo beforehand, where he's using the power chords and so on ahead of time. Nowadays, he does that with just a little chug, 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 which I do not like at all. But I like the version of Black Diamond live back then. I think they brought it back in '96 with the original version he was doing in the '70s. So that's my preferred version of that. Next song on my list is War Machine. I always loved that song since Creatures, with just the groove of it, everything about it I always liked. There's nothing wrong with that song as far as I'm concerned. So that's just one that's, even though they play it all the time still in concert, I don't get sick of it. Yes. Next song is Going Blind, which I originally didn't like so much originally when I first heard Hotter Than Hell. It was okay at that time, but once they brought it acoustic and did it unplugged and so on, man, that song is just awesome to me, and that's the best version of it. Unplugged is the one to go to for that. Okay, next one you might have a problem with. Some people might. Charisma. There's especially I just like it. I mean, it's a cheesy Gene Simmons song. Obviously he's talking about himself, and it's obvious thing, but it's kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of song. And but the thing I like about it, or it's more of a memory for me for when I bought Dynasty the first day Dynasty came out, and we pulled it out. We were in the record factory. There was a box on the floor, hasn't been stocked yet on the shelf, and me and my friend are grabbing for the album. I pull it out first out of the box, saying I got it first. I got Dynasty first, and he pulled it out second. We go to the register. He jumps in front of me and buys it. He says, "I bought Dynasty before you." I said, "You jerk!" But anyway, it wasn't that big of a deal. But the real thing is, when I took it, we brought it home. We sat, and I think we were playing video games back then, and we sat in front of the TV, and I threw on the record, and I've told the story before. The back of the album, the song list, I thought was the order of the songs. So Charisma is number 1 on that list. So I just quick look at the record. There's Charisma, throw it on. So I listened to side 2 first, and then side 1 second. So the first song was Charisma, and that was the deal there. And I thought that was a great start for an album.
You're like, wow, they're starting off with a Gene song.
Yeah, they didn't start off with a disco song. They started off with a Gene song, and it was rock. And I just kind of always liked that song. All right, so let's go on here. Next song is Not for the Innocent. Great song off of Lick It Up. I just love the beginning of it, how it sounds. It kind of builds at the beginning of the song, and it's just a great vocal. The whole thing is just an awesome tune. Of course, we've heard the demo versions of that, or some people have heard it, with Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons trading vocals. That would have been probably an even better version to put on there, but Not for the Innocent, still great song. Next one, I Stole Your Love, is kind of just a all-around great Kiss song. I mean, there's nothing you could say bad about it. It's when I first bought Alive 2, that was my first album. I put it on Live. That's the first song on that, and I think it was the first song. Maybe I'm wrong.
First song, side 3. On the
side 3. Okay, yeah. I mean, I played side 3 a lot.
Maybe you started off with the wrong record on that one.
Yeah, I probably did. It's very possible. But I just love that song. I never get tired of it. I love to hear it live whenever they can, pull that one out. Okay, next one is Under the Rose. It's from The Elder, and I had other songs. Like I said, I thought I love I off of The Elder too, but Under the Rose I always liked, even though some of the background vocals or the kind of I don't know what they had building in there in the background, who sang that, or if it was they brought in a group of males to sing that, or if that was Kiss or not. But the general song itself is a great song. And the part I love best is the riffing it goes in when it kicks in and it does that great riff. And I think it's probably something that Eric Carr brought on that one. I'm just going to say that's his style of writing. And also I love the guitar solo at the later on where I call it's kind of a follow the leader, but it's like a delayed guitar solo. So you hear it, if you listen to headphones, you hear it start off in one and then it starts in the second one. They're kind of following each other. It's like a little delay, but I always love that. So I always love that song. Next one, I Want You, is the song that got me into Kiss pretty much when I was over at my buddy's house, and he said, listen to this, he put it on, started acoustic, and I was listening at the time, I was listening to Linda Ronstadt, Neil Sedaka, the Carpenters, the Eagles. So different, though a Steve Miller Band too. So it was different. So I thought, oh, this is it's acoustic, all right, and all of a sudden it just kicked in, and it just blew me. I was like, what the heck just happened here? And pretty much he showed me the album cover, and I was a big comic book fan and so on too. So it just kind of all worked for me. And the song is just a great song, from beginning to end. Just another good one. So that was why I put that on there. A Million to One, one of the better songs I think off of, and this is another Look It Up album song on this list. So that's a great song, great vocal, Paul Stanley. Man, it's just, I don't know what to say about it, but I just love it every time I hear it, and it's great when if he pulls that out live. I think he did that on his solo tour, so no problem with that one. Great song. Okay, Naked City. That's one of my favorite songs off of Unmasked. Naked City is a great, well-written song. Probably one of Gene's best written songs, really. Too bad it couldn't have showed up on a heavier album, production-wise, but still, his performance on that is one of his best vocals I think he's ever done. And so that's always going to be high on my list because it's just a great song. And even though Unmasked is not one of my favorite albums, but that one sticks out for me. Do you want me to now give you my hate song, or
we'll hit that later?
Okay.
So Ken's list: Black Diamond live, War Machine, Going Blind live version, unplugged version, Charisma, Not for the Innocent, I Stole Your Love, Under the Rose, I Want You, A Million to One, and Naked City. Those are Ken's top 10 Kiss songs. Some interesting choices. Some standards in there with War Machine, with I Stole Your Love, I Want You, some classic Kiss tunes that everybody knows and loves and they play live. I haven't played I Want You live in 10 years. But some standards and some oddities in there also, with Under the Rose. Maybe some head scratchers for some people in there. Really? Under the Rose, your top 10? We'll get into that later. But so some interesting picks, but some good ones too. So, and that's, I don't know, I say this all the time on the podcast, but that's what makes being a Kiss fan so cool, is that there's so many Kiss fans. We all have our favorite mix within Kiss. The favorite little pieces about them, because Kiss to me is just so big. But we all love different things about the band. So, yep. Good list, Ken. Very good. Jay, I'm going to throw it to you next. You did something a little bit different with your list, so let's hear your top 10 Kiss songs.
What did I do different? I'm not sure what I did different. But, all right, so, yeah, I mean, there's some oddball choices on here. Maybe a lot of my choices are influenced by the fact that some of the standards I've heard so many times that it's tainted my love for them, which is not to say they're not fabulous songs, but for one reason or another, they have fallen off of my heavy rotation list. So having said that, this list is influenced by that, predominantly by that. This is in chronological order because there's no way I would be able to put any of this stuff in order of favorite to least favorite in my top 10. So off the first album, for sure, Firehouse. I think it's a song that doesn't really get as much love as I thought that it would, especially the live version, which is insane off of Alive. But I always thought that song was one of the strongest songs on the first album. And hearing the bell sound demos, which really gives you a different feel for the song, you can definitely tell there's some British influence happening in there, which doesn't come across so well on the actual proper studio recording. But anywho, I love that song. It's one of my all-time favorites. Still love it. All right, the next one. This is an oddball, probably. I'll probably catch some flack for this, but This was actually the first song I heard off of Hotter Than Hell when the record came out, and that is All the Way. I just think it's got a really cool hook. It's a very distinctly different song from probably anything else on that record. Maybe Going Blind might also take honors for the most different song on the album, but just the strange count in that you hear at the very beginning and the faint distance, and then this like random cowbell kind of throwing in there. I just think it's a great song. I love the hook. I love the chorus. There really isn't anything that I don't love about it. I think the guitar solo, I love the tone on that. I have no idea if they're using some sort of stomp box or whatever for that guitar solo, but it's one of my favorite Ace solos on that album, and I think it's a fabulous song. It was nice to hear it kind of briefly come back into the set, a couple of random shows over the last few years. So the next song would be Strange Ways, which I think probably most Kiss fans can acknowledge has some pretty cool stuff about it. I mean, the guitar solo in and of itself is epic, and, it's Peter's voice, man. I mean, it's weird, though, because when I was a kid, I would look at the songwriting credits under each song, and at the time, I didn't realize that was the songwriting credit. I thought that was who was singing the song. So when I saw Ace's name under the song, I assumed that was Ace Frehley singing. And it wasn't until many years later that I realized that was Peter Criss. So, but an amazing song. Probably the closest thing to heavy stoner rock that Kiss ever did. And so for that's cool. Next on the list, Baby Driver. Always been my favorite song on Rock and Roll Over. Catches a lot of heat from a lot of folks on the FAQ. Not a lot of folks are into that song. Maybe it's because it's a Peter Criss song. I don't know. But the thing that I love about the song is it's got a really killer guitar tone. Probably some of the best crunchy guitar tones I've ever heard on a Kiss record. Peter's vocals are just insane. I mean, you could tell he really put it all into that song. Probably the most impassioned vocal I've ever heard from Peter. And it's got a great groove, man, and those dual guitars that come in. It's perfection. Next on my list, Almost Human. For all the greatness that is God of Thunder, I think Almost Human took it up a notch. There's so much going on in that song. You've got the first appearance of congas that I'm aware of in a Kiss song, which is just adds a lot to the atmosphere. You've got some of Gene's most demonic vocals on a Kiss song, and then you throw in these ethereal kind of spooky voices, these harmony vocals in the background, and then you've got this bizarre reverse Ace Frehley guitar solo, which is, to me, when you combine all those things, that song is just one of the things that I look for in a song is not just the hook or the lyric or the vocals, but also atmosphere. And that song has atmosphere tenfold. So that had to be on my list. The next one is actually technically not a proper Kiss song in that no one in Kiss wrote it, but it's off an amazing record, one of my favorite Kiss albums, and that is That You? I'll give Mr. McMahon some major props for great songwriting. You can really tell how much tweaking was done to the arrangement when you A-B compare the original demo done by Gerard and then the finished version by Kiss. It's got a great hook, a great chorus, and I'm really shocked that song was not released as the lead single for Unmasked. Probably, to me, the most radio-friendly on the entire record. I love it. Next, I guess I accidentally picked one of a song that Ken had on his list, so my bad for that. But I'll go with A Million to One. I think it's a great song. Probably one of the most well-written Kiss songs of the 80s. And I guess depending on... I've never heard about the origins of that song, So I can't, verify one way or the other whether that is predominantly a Paul Stanley song or whether this is a Vincent Cusano song. But regardless, I think it's one of the best written songs of Kiss's career during the 80s, far and away, and probably the best song on Lick It Up. Next on my list, Thou Shalt Not. The song's got tons of attitude. I love the riff. It's very simple, very driving. The lyrics are sort of no bullshit, which I can appreciate. And it's got a great repetitive chorus that gets stuck in your head. I really don't see anything wrong with it. I think Unholy's a fabulous song, but over time, I think Thou Shalt Not has stayed in my playlist a little longer. So that's going to be my number 9. And my final one is from Carnival of Souls. Probably the only song that I really love off of that album, and that's Childhood's End. Probably for the same reasons that I like a few of the other songs in my top 10, because there's just something distinctly different about it. It really stands out. You've got the children's sort of choir going on in the background. You got this very rubbery, fretless bass line that happens during the main riff. I really love the song lyrically, and I don't know who did the lyrics on that song, since there are multiple writers credited for it. But I think it's if that was a Gene lyric, it's certainly one of Gene's maybe more true to life, realistic lyrics. Not so much about chasing women and acting like a moron. But I think it's a fabulous song, and probably I would say it's probably the best song he's written since the 80s, for sure, for me.
Wow.
And that's it.
All right. So that's Jay's list. Jay goes with Firehouse, All the Way, Strange Ways, Baby Driver, Almost Human, Is That You, 1,000,001, Thou Shalt Not, Childhood's End, and Jay, I think you missed Flaming Youth was on your list.
I did. I missed Flaming Youth. Yeah. And that was actually the first song I heard on Destroyer, because I think I did kind of the same thing Ken did. I think when I first put the record on the turntable, I had side 2 queued up instead. And that's another one of my favorites. Probably another one of those songs that has something really different about it, with the calliope organs happening during the breakdown, the building tension at the end, and how the riff skips out at 4/4 time and goes kind of wonky there towards the end. It's just a very cool song. I love it.
Good tune. So you bring up a good point. All the Way, when they started playing All the Way on the Rockin' Nation tour, I fell in love with that song when they started playing that on that tour. And I got some of those instant live discs, and I couldn't stop listening to the live version of All the Way when they were doing that. I just played it over and over and over again, just breathed new life for that tune, for that song to me, which is great.
Yeah.
And Almost Human was really cool too, to finally hear a live version of that when they played that on the cruise a couple years ago. Also, it's just, I've always liked that song, but hear it live, just to finally hear a different version of a classic Kiss song as opposed to the one version I've listened to my entire life, because there wasn't a live version of all available.
Right.
Those two songs, to finally hear a different version of them was just incredible.
Yeah.
Two versions of those songs I just couldn't stop listening to over and over and over again. So guys, your thoughts on Jay's list. We're going to go back and revisit Ken's list. I wanted to do this. While Jay's list is still fresh in our minds, what are your thoughts on Jay's list? Firehouse, All the Way, Strange Ways, Flaming Youth, Baby Driver, Almost Human, Is That You, 1,000,001, Thou Shalt Not, and Childhood's End. You guys have any problems with with Jay's list? Yeah, any surprises to you?
Well, there's of course there's surprises on it, but I mean, like you said before, I mean there's no two Kiss fans are alike, so I mean I don't expect everybody to have similar selections for their songs. I mean, what he likes is what he likes. I mean, some of them I would agree with, some of them I don't, but that doesn't matter. It's his choice. It's what he likes, and I respect him for what he likes. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, Strange Ways was on my short list. That one because that is just a great song, and the solo in that is just awesome. Baby Driver was another one that I've always loved. I'm one of the few like you, Jay, who loves that song. It's a great song. And then Almost Human is another great one that I always love to listen to. Thou Shalt Not, that I love that one. That's the first one I heard off of. Well, not Revenge, but I heard it off of Revenge, other than Unholy, because that's when I went to the club tour in San Francisco, and right when I walked in, that song was playing, and I was like, "This is freaking kicks butt," right? So, trying to keep it clean here. And then Is That You? Is that one is kind of, for me, that's the only one that is surprising to me, because that one's not one of my favorite ones off of Unmasked. But otherwise, I love your list. Makes sense to me.
I don't.
That's good. I like that, and I think everybody can relate to. We've all been burnt out on some certain Kiss songs over the years that, maybe when I was a kid I really liked I Love It Loud. Now I just can't do it at all. Songs like that just burnt out on you. Before we get into, I want to get the Mark's list. Before we get into it, I want to get your guys' thoughts on Ken's list before we go any deeper. Ken, again, had Black Diamond, the live version from the 70s, War Machine, Going Blind, Charisma, Not for the Innocent, I Stole Your Love, Under the Rose, I Want You, A Million to One, and Naked City. Jay, what are your thoughts on Ken's list?
I think there's some great choices in there. A lot of Gene songs. And, it's weird. I'm not a big fan of Gene as a person. And I think his songwriting at times has been sloppy and kind of thrown together. But there are some real gems from Gene over the years. His songs tend to have a little more variety in their approach than maybe some of Paul's stuff. And so I think Charisma, Naked City, both are great choices. Charisma, definitely one of my top favorites off of Dynasty. And Naked City was totally going to be on my list. I think it's a fantastic song. I love the really heavy bass. I guess just the fact that there's so much bass in that song is just a very cool, walking, distinct bass line in there that just separates that song from about anything else from that record. So good choice on those. I think Going Blind is another classic. Those guitar solos and that sludgy guitar tone just really create a lot of atmosphere in that song. So props, man.
Yeah. Well, I say...
Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say that I'm pretty much going to say the same thing I said for Jay's. I mean, everybody has their preferential songs that they like. And I mean, I think Ken seems to lean heavily toward the Gene songs. But that's, what he likes, and who's to say that that's wrong, right? I mean, that's what you like, and if that's the writing style that you prefer, then so be it, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, and I commend you for your picks, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Going Blind's another one of those songs that I was just talking about, like off of Jay's list, with All the Way and Almost Human, that when I heard him do Going Blind acoustically, on MTV Unplugged, it's like another one of those songs that I finally have another version of this song to listen to.
Oh, yeah.
Just breathe new life into that song.
I remember the very first time I heard Kiss do that song outside of the studio recording. I was at, I think it's called Edge Fest, and it was in some little town outside of Chicago.
Yeah,
in like
Blaze Fest.
Blaze Fest, that's it, Blaze Fest. Yeah, and so I ended up going, and I don't even know if David Lee Roth ever showed up. I don't remember even seeing him. He was on the bill, but anyway, so I was not expecting half the stuff they ended up playing, but they threw Going Blind in the set list, and I think that was actually the very first time that the band had done the song live. Maybe I don't know if the club tour that they did on for the Revenge preceded that or not, but in any case, it was the first time I'd ever heard Kiss do Going Blind live, and I was floored.
Yeah, That's a great set list. I'm jealous you're at that Blaze Fest show. A buddy of mine was at that show too. That's an awesome set list.
Yeah, it was close to home back then. I used to live in Indiana, so it was it made sense to go, and it was dirt cheap too.
Really? Oh, I'm jealous of that. Yeah, I think I don't know, it's funny that when we hear certain Kiss songs that you're not expecting, and it brings new life into them. And I think Going Blind All the Way and Almost Human are great examples of that. It's a good list so far, guys. So, Mark, let's get going over to you. Let's hear about your top 10 Kiss songs.
Well, it's funny. Before I start the list, it's funny. When I was going through my selections that I was doing, I kind of had to sit down and ask myself honestly what I thought were my favorite songs, because I find that sometimes people have a tendency of doing what I call the Rolling Stone magazine theory, where they seem to want to pick the most obscure songs just for the sake of being obscure. Like somebody will pick like Mr. Blackwell, and I think to myself, really, like, you really think that's a great song? I mean, I just think sometimes people pick these songs because they just want to have the most oddest selection of songs that they can think of just to up somebody else on, their list. But when I sat down and thought of my list, I really thought about what songs really stuck with me through the years, when I remembered first hearing them, and what ones are still important to me now, even as a musician, as a guitar player, what songs I really love. So my 10 are as follows. My first one was Black Diamond, similar to Ken, except my version that I like is the Live 1 version. I remember hearing that when I was pretty young. My sister, who was a few years older than me, she used to watch me when my parents were working, and she took me over to a friend's house, and he had the whole collection of albums at that point, and he used to blast like a Live 1 in the apartment. And I remember that song distinctly when I was in the apartment, and just thinking to myself, wow, what the hell is this? All the explosions going on and stuff like that. And I mean, that wasn't even seeing any sort of videos. That was just hearing the audio, and I thought it was incredible, this song. It always stuck with me. And through the years, I've always loved that song, and out of the times I've seen Kiss, I've always had the pleasure of seeing them do it. And it's one of the songs they've always kept in their set list in one form or another. So, I think it's been a strong song, and it's an identifiable Kiss song. To me, I like this song. Not to me is my Rock and Roll All Night, Black Diamond. I love that song, and always hope that they'll play it every time they come around. The next song that I picked on my list is Come On and Love Me. Very, very catchy song, a Paul Stanley classic, in my opinion. It's not the most complicated song. It's not the most, lyrically, challenging song, but it's catchy. It has a great melody. Everything about it is really cool, and it's, quick, under 3 minutes, and, gets the job done. And I think it's still a song that people love hearing. And whenever I go to jam nights and play with people, sometimes it's one of those songs I like to pull out and just do for fun, and it always gets a great reaction. Here's one song that might be odd to some people, but I don't know why. But King of the Mountain, I think, is a really awesome song. I mean, the very first time I heard Asylum, which I think by this point most people probably know that Asylum is probably my favorite non-makeup Kiss album. And I've always thought that that's a great song to start off an album with. I mean, if you're going to start a record off, I mean, what better way to start it off than King of the Mountain? I mean, Eric Carr just blazing away there on drums, and Paul Stanley in fine form singing, and, everything about it is really stands out to me. I mean, the writing is good. And like I said, I always have a soft spot for that album, so most of it I could have picked on here as my favorite songs. But like I said, I wanted to keep myself honest and go through their whole catalog. So that brings me to Watching You, which I really liked. I thought that was an awesome song. And as much as the Hotter Than Hell, the record gets knocked for its, lousy production and so on and so forth, I always thought that that's one of the songs that maybe benefited from that sort of production. I mean, it gives it a little bit of a, grungier sound to it, and I thought it worked for it. I thought other songs on that record didn't work with that sound like Coming Home and like that. Could have benefited from more of a Drastic Hill production, but this song in particular worked really well with that sort of production. So I always thought that that's one of the standout songs from that album. After that, I picked Detroit Rock City. I think that's probably to most people's eyes a safe pick. But to me, if I'm going to be honest, it's a really, really well-written song. It's catchy. I mean, the guitar playing is phenomenal on it. I think it's one of Peter Criss's better drumming songs that he did on that album for sure. I know that in his books and other biographies that I've read, he's always complained about how much Bob Ezrin pushed him on songs like that. But
wait. Peter complained about something?
Yeah, who would have thought, right? But I mean, I think that the pushing helped, and it really shows on that song. I mean, it's a fantastic song. And, it's one of those rare songs that I think Bob Ezrin really helped with the writing. I mean, I'm not a big Ezrin fan as far as production goes, but in that song, I'll give him full props. After that, I picked Who Wants to Be Lonely? Surprise, surprise again from Asylum. But
kissing up to the boss.
Again, it's one of those songs where I think from beginning to end, it's really well written. I mean, it's one of those songs for me that when I hear it every single time, it brings me back to a time and place for me. And I think that if a favorite song should do that, it should be something that when you hear it, you're like, this is why I love this song. It reminds me of maybe a particular summer, a particular event, or something. And, that song will always do that for me. It's really good. It does, have the unfortunateness of having probably the worst video ever made, but I mean, only in the sense that I find that his outfit, Paul Stanley's in particular, looks a little gaudy in that. But other than that,
Why are you looking at Paul Stanley during that video? I think there's other things to look at in that video.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that as far as their outfits are concerned, right?
I'm just giving you trouble. Alex isn't here for me to pick on, so I got to pick on somebody.
That's cool. After that, I picked I Stole Your Love, which I'm pretty sure I think Ken picked that as well, if I'm not mistaken. And again, as far as openers go for an album, that's a really good one. I mean, they opened a lot of their concerts in the late 70s with that as well. And it's a really, really standout track. I remember also from, the Kiss Meets the Phantom, they had a really great performance of that as well. And I thought that was really cool. Always liked it. I mean, just something about the guitar playing in that song that really connects with me for some reason. I also like the fact that there was that one of the rare times that they had the split soloing between Paul and Ace on that, which I thought was really good. And, showed a little bit of teamwork there doing that, right? So, and it's also, Love Gun is one of those records that I have a love-hate with as well. I mean, a lot of those songs I love on it, and a lot of the songs on there, if I'm not in the right mood, kind of rub me the wrong way. But on the whole, I think Love Gun's a pretty great record, and this is by far my favorite song off it, to be honest. So that's why I picked that. The next one that I picked is actually probably the very first Kiss song I ever remember hearing, ever, and that's Calling Dr. Love. And I think Calling Dr. Love, as much as it's one of those songs that's a victim of us probably overhearing it way too much throughout our lives, but I think it also contains the best Ace Frehley guitar solo on there, in my opinion. I mean, like we said before, everybody has their own opinion, and I respect that fully from everybody. But as a guitar player, I really thought that he stretched out on that solo. It's really cool. I love the effects, the flanging and stuff like that he put on it. And it's a really, really good guitar solo. And I think it just complemented what Gene was trying to do on this song and just make a real straightforward, unabashed rock and roll song. And he needed that kind of a solo for it. The next song that I picked was also off of Rock and Roll Over, which is my favorite album, period, from Kiss, is I Want You. And again, I seem to have a thing for songs, but I think opening songs on the records are really important. I mean, even being a songwriter myself, I mean, you want to catch the people right off the beginning. I mean, the first song is so crucial in that sense. I mean, if you don't hook them at the beginning, who's to say they'll go even past song 2 or 3, right? So I thought that song really showed the band in its strongest sense. I mean, great guitar playing, great drumming. The singing is really well done. It's a hard hitting, straight to the point. It had dynamics and a clean beginning, then a hard rock and chorus and stuff like that. And it showed, a little bit of stretching out for them as writers. And the last song that I picked is off of Dynasty, and it's my favorite song off of this album, and it's Magic Touch. I really love that song. I'm really happy that Paul actually did it on his solo tour, because I never thought you'd be able to hear that song in any form of live capacity. But the fact that he did it really made me happy. I mean, it's a great song. It's still a song that I kind of, in the back of my mind, hope that maybe before these guys wrap it up, they might want to attempt it live, which I don't think they ever will. But it would be one of those things that I would be really, really elated if they tried it just once, even like on a cruise or something. Like, just, pull it out one last time and play it. And, I would be a happy camper if they did that. So there's my 10 songs that I had to really think about and be honest with myself and choose, and that's what I came up with.
Yeah, some good picks there, Mark. Magic Touch, I was on Kiss Cruise 2, and people were shouting out Magic Touch, and Paul Stanley goes, Eric doesn't know how to play Magic Touch. I'm like, bullshit, you don't know how to play Magic Touch. You don't embarrass yourself. But they played like the refrain or something of it, just kind of teased it for a second. I was like, oh, come on, that'd be so cool. But Magic Touch is another one of those songs like we were just talking about a little bit ago, when Paul did it on his solo tour. And it's on that One Life Kiss DVD, and you can get the audio off of iTunes or off of Amazon. Sounds really great live, and it's just cool to have a second version of that tune. Come On and Love Me, great song. Can't disagree with you on that, Mark. I think you have some interesting selections. King of the Mountain. You threw out some stuff from the 70s, from the 80s. Just really honest with tunes that resonated with you over the years. So good list. I really liked it. What do you guys think of Mark's list?
I think watching you in particular is a great choice, and you made a very good point about the production of Hotter Than Hell working so well with that song. I mean, that song is about as creepy as they come in a lyrical sense. So when you couple that with this sort of trashy, sludgy production, those two things work really well together. And I agree with you 100% on the guitar solo for Calling Dr. Love. It is a great song, and that is totally, to me, that is quintessential Ace. While I probably would say that I love the guitar solo for Strange Ways more in a technical sense, I do think that the guitar solo for Calling Dr. Love was super well written. So your observations, I totally agree with there.
Thank you.
Ken.
Yeah, I can't disagree with his list at all. King of the Mountain, that's a good one, a good start opening song. Again, you chose a lot of opening songs, or a few opening songs, so it's obvious, those are the strong ones that have to start off albums and the go-to songs. Calling Dr. Love was on my short list. That was one of my first, I guess, favorite songs of Kiss. I listened over and over, and the guitar solo is what kind of is the icing on the cake, right, for that song. When I first heard that song, and just the way it built, and you could feel something. I don't know how to explain it, but back then, when I was first listening to it, you could just feel it's like whoa! You just couldn't wait for that guitar solo to kick in, and that's just a compliment to Ace, because he knows how to write a song or write a solo that fits the song. He's always been able to do that. I don't know how, but I mean, he's underrated from that sense, to write a solo that's melodic and that fits the song. There's a lot of guitar players out there. They're great guitar players, but they don't write a guitar solo that fits the song. They're just going off to some other, wherever. Your list is great. I don't have any issues with it. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm curious, Mark. The version of Calling Dr. Love, which is your preference? The double platinum version or the rock and roll over version?
Honestly, I think it's the Rock and Roll Over version, mainly just because I think that I've had that album longer, and Double Platinum is one of those records I just go to once in a while. I mean, I think I mainly bring it when I go on long trips or something because it does have obviously a long like song selection on there, so
Right.
it makes sense for a car ride, right? So usually, though, I stick with Rock and Roll Over. I just really love that album, top to bottom. It's always been my favorite, so I tend to listen to that a lot more.
Notice you didn't give him the option of the Smash a Thrash than his version of Calling.
Yeah, I don't. That's totally. Yeah, I can't even stomach that.
No, no thanks. All right. All right. I'm going to get into my list then.
All right.
First off, "Come On and Love Me." It's my favorite Kiss song. It's just catchy from top to bottom. Great lyrics, great riff. I just love it. And when they play it live, it's just amazing when they play it live. And I wish they would play it live more often. I've seen them do it a few times, not as many as I'd like, but it's probably my favorite Kiss song. Second, "Detroit Rock City." And again, like Marcus, maybe it's a safe pick, but for me, it's like you guys have thrown out like the first Kiss song you guys have ever heard, and it sticks with you. "Detroit Rock City" is probably the first Kiss song I ever heard. My brother had Destroyer on audio cassette when I was a real small kid, and going into his room and he's playing that, it's just like, what is this? This is the same reaction you guys have had probably the first time you heard Kiss. It's like, what is this? This is awesome. And that song just stuck with me, and then the solo on it is just amazing. It's catchy. To me, it's everything that Kiss is about. The song is just amazing, and you hear it live, it gets the crowd fired up. It's my favorite song that Kiss can start the show with because everybody knows it, whether you're just a casual Kiss fan or you're a diehard, and everybody just loves it and gets people up and going to start the show. It's the best. Third is "Got to Choose," and for me, "Got to Choose" is one of those songs that when I hear it on Hotter Than Hell, it's not my favorite version of it. I don't listen to the Hotter Than Hell version of that song at all, and it's an interesting choice from to start off that album with. But my favorite version of this, and you guys have all said versions of certain songs, would be the unplugged version that appears on the box set or on Japanese version of MTV Unplugged. The song just sounds so crisp and so pure on that. And that's the version of the song. That's my go-to version of "Got to Choose." Is that version? I've got to hear them play it a few times live when they were doing that Alive 35, and they're just playing alive from start to finish. Well, most of Alive from start to finish, and just great to hear that song live. And just a song it's just another song that's just stuck with me forever. And I love the riff on it. I love the solo on it. I love everything about it. Fourth is "Let Me Know," which is a different selection, I guess, off of the first album. But I love the trading. I've always loved songs with trading vocals with Gene and Paul. Gene and Paul are Kiss, and to hear both of them on a track together, and I love the groove on "Let Me Know." It's a different sounding song, even than most of the songs that are on the first Kiss record, and it's a song that they never play. Never play. I think they've played it on the cruise maybe once or twice. They didn't play it on the cruise that I went on, which was disappointing, but they rarely pull it out, and when they do, it always sounds great when they pull it out. On Rock the Nation, they played that guitar solo on it from "Let Me Know" at the tail end of some songs, and that sounded awesome. Just pulling that riff out, just playing that on Rock the Nation, and it's just great. And I mean, I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. It's just great, but it is, and to me, it's just what Kiss is about. That song is another one. It's just if somebody wants to get an introduction of what is Kiss, maybe people would put on "Detroit Rock City" or put on "Calling Dr. Love," but to me, like "Let Me Know" is a song of what Kiss is about, at least to me. With Gene and Paul singing, and it's about girls net and waiting for a girl, and it's just it is Kiss lyrically and musically. My fifth one is Unholy. You guys know I'm a huge Revenge fan, so I've got to throw in some. I got to throw in some stuff off Revenge in my top 10 list. And Unholy is, Mark, you were talking about songs that you just remember like a timestamp in your mind. And for me, Unholy, here I saw Unholy for the first time on MTV. Yeah, I remember it's 1992, and MTV that's where you would go you wouldn't have the radio on in the house. You just have MTV on in the house just to listen to music, and to visually see your bands too, and just wait for, instead of just sitting by the radio waiting for your songs to come on, I would just, as a kid, you would just have MTV on, not only just to wait to hear your favorite band, but to see your favorite band at the same time too. And that's something it's unfortunate, but that's something that's really lost today, that you don't have that anymore. Just sitting around waiting to see your favorite band on MTV. It's something that died, and to me, it's unfortunate. But Unholy, seeing that video and seeing Kiss in that Revenge look and hearing the sound, and just renewed my fire in the band immediately when I saw that video, and I still love it to this day. Next one is Deuce. Again, maybe a safe pick, but it is another song that just sums up what Kiss is, at least in my mind, with the catchy guitar riff and great solo and just the energy of that song. And Ace Frehley talks about that Deuce was the first Kiss song he ever heard, and it's a song that Ace plays live to this day just because he loves it. And it's a song that I love to this day. It's just the energy of that song, especially for me. I like, there isn't a bad version of Deuce, but that demo, the Eddie Kramer version of Deuce is, in my mind, just incredible. The band just sounds so raw and so edgy in that song. Next one for me is Mr. Speed off Rock and Roll Over. That is one of those songs that we don't have another version of to go to and listen. And in my eyes, that's extremely unfortunate. It's another song that with a great groove, with great lyrics. And I don't understand to this day why they've never played it live electrically. We've heard them play around with it on those 95 convention tours. They did it on one of the cruises acoustically. And it sounded great when they do it. And it's just like, Paul must not like that song or something. There must be something about that song because it's a great song. And I think everybody listening and I think you guys are shaking your heads in agreement. Yeah, Mr. Speed's great song. And you hear appreciations for it on the FAQ and on other places on the internet. Everybody loves that song. For some reason, maybe Paul just doesn't like it, or Gene just doesn't like it, because they never play it. Not even on Rock the Nation. They didn't play it at all.
Didn't they play it on the farewell tour? Remember, didn't they do that?
They teased it. They teased it on the farewell tour in Australia when they were doing those medleys, when they were just kind of off the cuff playing stuff.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But I mean, never like from start to finish. It's one of the strangest things in my eyes. King of the Nighttime World is next for me. Love that track. Just the lyrics, the medley, everything. When they started the tour last year and they were starting off with King of the Nighttime World, I was excited. I was like, yes, they're finally bringing it back. It's a great track from back in the day. And then after the first 3 or 4 shows, it's gone. And I was like, are you kidding me? You're dropping that and you're back to Psycho Circus to start off the show? Nothing against Psycho Circus. It's fine. It's a great opener for a show. But King of the Nighttime World, for me, I mean, I haven't heard them play that live in person since 97 on their reunion tour. Like, how long do we have to wait to hear one of your greatest songs in my eyes? But this isn't supposed to be about set lists. It's supposed to be about favorite songs, and get me going. I'll start talking about the set list. But King of the Nighttime World, great song. Can't say enough good things about it. Next one, and I'm the only one who picked a ballad, but my next selection is Every Time I Look at You. Maybe odd that I picked a ballad, but I love that song. And maybe it's because I love revenge, and maybe I felt like I need to put another revenge song on here. But it's not that. I love Every Time I Look at You. In my eyes, it's Kiss's best ballad, better than Forever, better than anything else. And an overlooked song, and I guess maybe it has something to do with the time that it came out as a single in '92. I mean, I never saw the video on MTV for it. I never saw the video until years later. And it's unfortunate in my eyes, because I think that Every Time I Look at You could have received the same attention that Forever did. And I think Kiss thought it should have received the same attention that Forever did. And I've heard interviews with Paul. Paul was very disappointed in how that song was received, and it didn't build up and get the attention that he thought it deserved. And in my eyes, it didn't, because I really love that track. And, I mean, it's, again, I think, like Mark said with that song, and maybe like Unholy too, you put yourself in where you were at the time and what that song means to you too. So it's just something that's always meant a lot to me. And my last song is War Machine off of Creatures. Always love that song. It's just the great riff, and heavy and dark, and I love it when they play it live, obviously. And I've always said, if I was a Major League Baseball player, that's the song that I would come up the bat to, would be War Machine. So, that's my top 10. Come On and Love Me, Detroit Rock City, Got to Choose, Let Me Know, Unholy, Deuce, Mr. Speed, King of the Nighttime World, Every Time I Look at You, and War Machine. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I think Let Me Know is a great selection from the first album. Definitely, I guess, probably considered by your casual Kiss fan as sort of a little different of a choice. But to me, it is a huge part of what made me fall in love with Kiss. I mean, the first album is such an instrumental part of the whole Kiss thing. And I think the song's great. And it has historical significance, being the very first, I think Sunday Driver was actually the very first song that Gene played for Paul. So in that respect, you got to have at least some love for the song. And I think your choice of King of the Nighttime World is very cool. In fact, I think, and I don't know how many other Kiss fans would agree, but I think Detroit Rock City and King of the Nighttime World are the best 1-2 punch in the history of recorded Kiss music. I just don't think you can touch it. The way those two segue together, and there's just so much tension building. It's amazing. So awesome selections, dude.
Yeah, I think that your list is really good. I mean, once again, the list reflects the person, and I think obviously your love of revenge is shown on the list, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, if you love that album, then so be it, right? I mean, that your list is gonna reflect your taste, and that's your taste that you like the most. I mean, some people like sushi, some people don't like sushi, right? So, I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, I like Revenge too. It's not my favorite, but I mean, so what? I mean, you could say the same thing maybe about Asylum, and that's my favorite non-makeup record, right? So again, I'm just really strong opinionated about the whole fact that people should just respect people's wishes and what they like, and that's that. I mean, I think it's a good thing to bring up these kind of lists, because it just shows people's taste in music, and you just get to learn a bit more about them, I think, as a whole, about what kind of music responds to the people more, I mean, maybe you were more liking that kind of late 80s, 90s music more than you like the 70s Kiss, maybe, who knows, right? I mean, maybe that's where you are right now, right, with your music listening. So I think it's a great list. There's nothing that I have against it, and good stuff.
I have to agree, it's a great list. I don't have any problems with it. Even there was a few songs on there that were on my short list that, for instance, Mr. Speed, that was coming in and out of my top 10 because I've always loved that song. Very, very underrated song by Kiss. Yeah, they need to play that live. They just need to do it. I don't know how, but they need to do it.
Don't know how.
I don't know how. Every time I look at you, that one, that one actually, when they put it on Unplugged, that for me, that brought new life to it. And that was a better version than the Revenge version. And I just love it on Unplugged. I mean, that's a close one to, Going Blind, the same kind of thing. The thing on Unplugged is with that song, the strings just fit it so perfectly on that performance. So I have to give you that's another one that's on my short list. So yeah, no problems with any of these songs. They're all, of course, great songs. It's hard to pick, whittle down to 10 songs. It's so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Julian isn't on the show today, but Julian did have a top 10 list, and I want to share Julian's top 10 list with the audience and with you guys also, get your reactions. So Julian's top 10 list of Kiss songs is Deuce, King of the Nighttime World, Detroit Rock City, Exciter, Save Your Love, Rocket Ride, Who Wants to Be Lonely, Parasite, Come On and Love Me, and Making Love. I don't have, Julian like me, I love Revenge. Julian loves Asylum, so Julian has Who Wants to Be Lonely on his. Save Your Love and Rocket Ride. Julian is the only one of us with 2 Ace Frehley lead vocal tracks on his top 10 list. So that's interesting, that none of us picked an Ace Frehley lead vocal on our list. We have some Peter Criss lead vocals on ours, but Julian's the only one with an Ace Frehley with Rocket Ride and Save Your Love, and I don't think anybody's going to say anything negative about those 2 songs. I mean, they're classic songs. Deuce, King of the Nighttime World, Detroit Rock City, 3 standard Kiss tracks, 3 tracks that they play. Oh, I can't say King of the Nighttime World that they play live. Deuce, Detroit Rock City that they play live all the time. King of the Nighttime World, just, we were talking about that a little bit ago, but it's great, great song. Also, Parasite, an Ace Frehley pen song. Obviously, Gene wrote it, but another Ace Frehley written track. Guys, your thoughts on Julian's list? Jay?
I think the selections are great. I think the Ace Frehley tracks are particularly strong. In fact, I might venture to put Rocket Ride in my top 10 and bump something out. Because that song is, to me, quintessential Ace Frehley. If there's one song that I identify as the Ace song, some folks might say Shock Me, but I guess for me it was Rocket Ride. And I just think it's amazing. I think the guitar solo is great. I think the riff, that sort of serpentine riff, is very cool. There's just nothing not to love about that song. Save Your Love, totally another great Ace song, kind of a dark horse in the Ace Frehley Kiss era catalog. But I think it's probably my favorite Ace song on Dynasty, and probably in my top 4 Ace Frehley songs ever. So, awesome choices, man.
Yeah, very underappreciated Ace song. Save Your Love. Great tune. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Great list. Exciters was on my short list. I love that song, and I love the way it builds and the changes that go on in the song and the way it builds. It's just a great opener on Lick It Up. I mean, I never get tired of that song. I mean, it's just so good. It's just a great song. So it was on my short list. Rocket Ride was another one that I was very close to putting in my top 10. That one, and actually I like another Ace song from Dynasty, not the Save Your Love, but Hard Times. That one's another one of my favorites too, that I almost made it into my top 10. So yeah, we didn't forget about you, Ace. But it's you're really you're right there. But a great list, great list of songs. I have no problems with any of those.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not really surprised at all by Julian's list. I mean, me and him both share a love of Asylum, and the fact that those songs appeared on there are no surprise to me. They were ones that I would pick as well. I agree with Ken. Exciter was an interesting selection, but again, being an opener, it's a great, strong song. Once again, it falls into that theory of mine that a opener has to catch you and reel you in, and Exciter does just that, right? And I admit too, a lot of those Ace Frehley songs were hovering around number 11 or 12 on my list, and I wasn't sure if they were going to bump up a little higher or not. But I just think, honestly, the only thing that prevents me from having them jump into that is just my love of Paul Stanley's singing kind of always trumps Ace Frehley singing to me. I mean, it's not that he's a bad singer at all. I mean, I think that he has a definite style to his singing, and you can definitely pick him out when you hear him on the radio singing. I mean, and that's a rare thing and probably a good thing that you have such an original kind of sounding voice, right? Most people will probably die for that, but I just think that Paul Stanley just resonates with me better as a singer, which is also why I liked his solo record better than Ace's, but that's another discussion for another time. But it's a great list. I commend Julian for his picks, and yeah, good stuff.
Well, we're all for Julian Lemmings. We're all for love Julian's list. So there's some songs that appear on multiple lists, like War Machine, I Stole Your Love, I Want You, A Million to One, Come On and Love Me, Detroit Rock City, Deuce, King of the Nighttime World, Who Wants to Be Lonely,
Black Diamond.
I think that's it. That appear on I said that. That appear on multiple lists. So that's interesting. That we all have common threads in Kiss songs, but we all have, there's also choices on everyone's list that are just on somebody's list. So we all have common threads, but we also have outside, individual opinions on songs too. While we were going over them, I was looking at like what songs off of different albums appear the most. And there's 5 songs on our lists from Hotter Than Hell. 5 different tracks from Hotter Than Hell. And Hotter Than Hell gets criticized a lot because of the poor production. But I think song for song wise, Hotter Than Hell is such a great album just song wise, but it's just underappreciated because of the muddy production. But 5 songs off of Hotter Than Hell: Going Blind, Got to Choose, Strange Ways, Watching You, and All the Way. So that was my biggest takeaway, my biggest surprise from everyone's list, that there's 5 different songs off of that album, which if you ask Kiss fans to rank their top, say, just classic 6 albums from the classic era, I don't think anybody's going to list Hotter Than Hell as number 1. But we all went to that well for our selections of Hotter Than Hell. So to me, that's very interesting. So those are our top 10 favorite Kiss songs of all time. Now, before we wrap up, before we conclude here, we all have a Kiss song that we just can't stand, that we just can't even get through from start to finish. So, just for fun, let's go through that real quick. Ken, what is your Kiss song that you absolutely, one Kiss song, to narrow it down to one? We had 10 favorites. We're going to narrow it down to the one Kiss song you absolutely can't stand.
Well, the one song for me is Nothing Can Keep Me From You. And oh my gosh, how can it, you can't label it a Kiss song. It doesn't sound like Kiss, first of all. It's just a song that should have been left as a demo somewhere and then, chucked into a garbage can. That's how I feel about it. It is so over thought out. As for writing, trying so much to write a hit song that it's just, it became a cluster. So I just, that's easy for me to not even listen to the first note of. If I hear the first note, I'll be clicking to the next song. Give me something else, right? Every time I look at you, okay. But yeah, that I can't stand it.
No argument here. Jay, what about you?
Well, I've been saying this for years. My most hated Kiss song ever has been the same since the day I heard it, and that is "You Love Me to Hate You." I absolutely cannot stomach that song. I hate the ridiculous vocal fireworks in that song. It's like, you know how Michael Bolton, when he sings, he almost sounds like his head is about to explode because he's pushing his range so high that it literally sounds painful. That song is like Michael Bolton times 100 for 3.5 minutes or however long it is. I have not made it through that song in well over 15 years. I just, when I hear it, it literally hurts to, I guess maybe sympathy pain. I don't know, but it's terrible songwriting. I don't like the groove in the song. I'm not really crazy about the lyrics. There's just absolutely nothing to like about that song. It is complete garbage to me. I don't think there'll ever be a Kiss song that can trump it. I'll even take freaking "Nothing Can Keep Me From You" or the Ascot song over
Ascot sounds okay.
No one's jumping in on you, Jay, and saying, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa!" Let me tell you something here. I love that song. So I don't think you're getting any arguments.
All right.
From anybody. So. Mark, what about you?
Well, you guys both had some good selections there. But the one that I picked because more than the fact that I just don't like it as a song, I personally will vote this as the most dishonest song Kiss has ever written, in my opinion. They were trying to put across something that definitely wasn't there, and they were trying to lie to their fans, as far as I'm concerned, and that is, you wanted the best. For them to try to sell me a song that they're all, happy-go-lucky, holding hands in the studio and singing this song together, just made me want to vomit, because I knew pretty much that this was just the biggest pile of turd as far as I was concerned. There was no connection with the band. This is a band that was constantly arguing about money and who's getting what and how come I'm not getting this and that. They were far and away, connected at this point. And for them to write a song like "You Wanted the Best" and try to make me believe it, I think that's, shame on them. I never acknowledge this song. Anytime it comes up, I skip it, and I don't even want to acknowledge it as a Kiss song. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's crap, and everything about it just makes me want to just. Ugh. I'd rather listen to a Barry Manilow album top to bottom than listen to that song. It's just terrible.
Strong words. No, you wanted the best. I when it came out on Psycho Circus, I loved Psycho Circus when it came out, and I loved a lot about that album when it came out. But over the years, it's just it hasn't. That album to me hasn't aged well. At least for me, it hasn't aged well. And "You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best" was the song that aged the worst. And especially, Mark, like you said, it's the dishonesty of it. I think is a great point, that the band was not getting along at that point. And you hear like the laughter at the end of the song, and we're just joking around, having a great time in the studio. No, you guys were never in the studio at the same time, because you guys were constantly bickering. And Peter Criss was, even it plays on one song, and it's very dishonest. I agree with you. And it's also a song that I skip if it happens to come up on any kind of playlist or any kind of shuffle on my iPod or whatever. Mine, I'm gonna echo with Ken, and "Nothing Can Keep Me From You." I can't stomach it. It's awful, and the fact that it's on Detroit, it doesn't make sense to begin with, that it's on Detroit Rock City soundtrack because it appears in the credits. It's not in the movie for, it's not like in a scene in the movie. It's in the credits, just stuffed on there just to be on there. And it should have been left for someone else to sing. Diane Warren wrote it, and it shouldn't have been recorded by Kiss. It should have been left for someone else to do and not Kiss, because it doesn't fit at all for the movie. It doesn't fit at all for Kiss. And, at the end of the day, the reason why they did it is it's a Diane Warren track, and Aerosmith had huge success the previous summer with the Diane Warren track, and it's Kiss, again, following the trends, thinking, oh, look what this band did. I think we could do this too. And it fell as flat as a pancake for them. And it's embarrassing for them. But at the same time, what pissed me off the most is that it appears on that Kiss 40 album that came out last summer. Really?
Oh,
Really? I mean, I feel like the guy in the Sandlot. Seriously? I mean, how can that be on there? That you're choosing that to celebrate 40 years of the band? Oh, here's this pile of shit to go along with everything else that we put out. Here's one song from every album. Oh, and let's throw this song on there from the Detroit Rock City soundtrack. Really?
I mean, what I
throw the version of Detroit Rock City on there that put the original 4 on there. Yeah, it's not the greatest, but throw that on there. Just clean it up and put it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. Like, from what I remember, Paul Stanley had, the open palette to write whatever he wanted for the ending credit. And I mean, here's a chance for him to write a really cool rockin' song. I mean, the rest of the soundtrack is pretty much, pretty cool songs. Thin Lizzy and other kinds of cool songs. I mean, why didn't he just write something along that line? He could have wrote anything he wanted in there, but yet he ends up writing this sappy song on there, putting it on there. I mean, I just don't understand it. Yeah?
yeah, there should have been a song that represented Kiss. I mean, come on, it's a movie about Kiss somewhat, and it should be something that's going to represent Kiss. Someone does pick it up, they'll say, "Oh, this is what Kiss is like." If it's for someone for the first time, listen to that, they'll think this is Kiss. It's like, oh, what the heck?
Yeah,
and Kiss 40. Yeah, Kiss 40 should have been called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly instead, because the ugly is nothing can keep me from you. Well, actually, the bad and the ugly is nothing can keep you from you. The rest is good.
I get let's put the X and sex on the kids. We can throw that in there too.
I agree with what you said, though, about Nothing Can Keep Me From You, because that song, to me, the minute I heard it, I immediately referred back to Aerosmith, Armageddon soundtrack, and was like, yep, this is about the most blatant rewrite or failed rewrite of the Aerosmith track. It reeked of cash grab. There was absolutely no artistic integrity put into that at all.
Yeah, we did a show a little while back about Kiss chasing trends, and that was one of the things that was brought up. Is that's all it was maybe Kiss saw Aerosmith get a #1 song. That's the Aerosmith song was a #1 song, and it was Kiss singing. Maybe we could do that too. How cool would it be to have a #1 song in America? And I think, and that's what they went after. And they got a song that didn't even chart at all. It was, and fittingly so. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what you get. So, well, those are our top 10 Kiss songs. Remember? Oh, and by the way, Julian also picked "Nothing Can Keep Me From You" as his least favorite Kiss track. Also, just so everybody knows. So I think that I think there's a consensus there with majority rules. So. So that's our top 10 Kiss songs and our least favorite Kiss songs. So you, the audience listening out there, give us your top 10 Kiss songs. I know there's been multiple threads on the FAQ before about favorite Kiss songs, but for the listening audience, throw those on there. Let's hear what you guys have to say about your top 10 Kiss songs. And put on your least favorite Kiss song also. Do you agree with us? Nothing Keep Me From You is the worst Kiss song out there, or do you have one that's even worse in your eyes? You have one that you just can't stomach. Let's hear what you guys have to say. But also Look us up on Facebook also for the Kiss FAQ podcast Facebook page. You guys can listen to us on the go when you're on your phones. You listen to us on the Spreaker app on your phone, YouTube, iTunes. You can download it on the Kiss FAQ message board. Gentlemen, any thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, I just thought that they were some excellent choices. I think that the lists were well thought out, I thought. And, like I said, it just reflects really well on who we are as listeners and what we like. And I think that it should be, it's a good thing that it was done. And I hope other people on the board do it because it'll get a good read on what everybody seems to like in the Kiss world.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a little surprised that there was no "put my log in your fireplace," "burn bitch burn" in there somewhere. But yeah, I thought the list was great though.
Yeah, it's easy to choose a song that's like Rock and Roll All Night. I mean, I like Rock and Roll All Night. When I first heard it, but we've heard it so many times. It's just easy to kind of push that aside and go for some of the other songs that you feel a stronger maybe connection to,
sure,
in some way. But yeah, my list will change next week. It'll be probably half of it'll be different.
Yeah, and interesting. Like you brought up, Ken, and Jay, you mentioned it too. That there's certain songs they're great songs, but we've just heard them over and over and over again. I think it's interesting that on no one's list do you find Rock and Roll All Night? Do you find Lick It Up? Do you find Love Gun? I Love It Loud? 4 songs that are played every single night that everyone left off their list. But not that they're bad songs, but it's just, I get it.
Yeah.
So, so leave us your lists on the board. If you have any beefs with our list, if you have a problem with Ken putting Under the Rose on his list or something like that, let us know. If you have a problem with me putting a ballad on my list, let us know. So for Ken, for Jay, for Mark, for Julian, I am Lonnie Weishauer, stlkiss on the Kiss FAQ message board. Thank you for listening to the Kiss FAQ podcast. You stay classy, Kiss Army.
Thank you for spending time listening to the Kiss FAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the Kiss FAQ message board and discuss the topic we broadcast today. We hope to see you again.